actually. And namaste. I'm Kamlesh Kapur, as she said, and I have been working almost lifelong in how to teach and build identity, Hindu identity of uh, young children so that they can fight their own battles. So this is the topic, dismantling, but I'll take it into two lines, two different parts. One is that India's challenges. How did the problem begin? You see, the most important thing is to pin when did the problems start, when was it, it deepened into fracture of society, and became freedom struggle became twisted in a whole different direction. Who was responsible? Once we diagnose the problems and issues over the past, what hit us? My own problem is that now that India is free, what hit us that we could not retrieve our knowledge base, pass it on, why we could not have link with the Sanskrit language, and most of the words which we try to map, Sanskrit terms and words, we map it on the Christians. So, and I'll explain to you how that has affected us. So there are complex challenges and how to meet those challenges. So what is the genesis of the problem? Fault lines, who created? Most of us blame the British, and of course, the British did create the background of partition and wholeheartedly sowed the seed of hatred and communal ill will. But it was basically deepened by Gandhi, Gandhis, and Gandhians. That is what my book is going to focus on. Who Gandhi, everybody knows. And without any shame, I acknowledge that I would not consider him Mahatma. So I don't refer to him as Mahatma. It might ruffle a few feathers, but I'll come to that. And who are the Gandhis? Gandhis are those who were given the name, fake name, to the Muslim, Firoz Khan and his wife, Indira. So their dynasty is Gandhis. And who are the Gandhians? Who are blind followers doing PhD in Gandhian economics. One wonders what that would be and how did he become an economist, and Gandhi's morality and truth and sacrifices. Well, as I'm writing the book, I must have gone through his complete speeches, works, and everything. Everything that he ever spoke, most of it I read. And I was amazed, what a misperception. Gandhi, who he was, and what people think about him, the image, the persona. And when I discuss it casually with one or two persons, and this is what I'm going to do, and they say, Kamlesh, don't do that. The only person the world knows us about by linking it to Mahatma Gandhi. I say, if that is the only identity I have, that I come from a country where Gandhi was there, it is shameful for the entire 1.3 billion people. Okay, now, Mahatma Gandhi. I put down a question mark because, so his stewardship of the freedom movement, and the title was given by Rabindranath Tagore when he came back from Africa. And his leadership and beliefs we are going to see. Principally, there were two beliefs around which his entire career before the partition was going on. The one belief was non-violence. Everything has to be non-violent. And that only had a very limited application. It applies to Hindus that they have to be non-violent. And it does not apply to the perpetrators of violence. So he was doing that, non-violence. And the second was Hindu-Muslim unity. He gave up his life for that. trying to achieve something which was absolutely impossible, not in the grain of the Muslim culture, to embrace the Hindu society. So he was like, in our Punjabi language, we say that I'm translating, we are throwing feathers into the air, thinking that it will reach God. So it was like that. So his performance as a leader, he was a virtual dictator. Anybody who dissented during those 20s, 30s, and 40s, he was just sidelined. They became like Vinoba Bhave left, like Madan Mohan Malviya left, and a whole lot of people, when they were sidelined and asked to not to question Gandhi, he is a leader. He is galvanizing the freedom movement, which is utter nonsense. He stymied it actually. So the saner voices, where were the saner voices when he was doing all this mischief? They were silenced. Dissent was not allowed. You already know, most of the people know what happened to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, what happened to many others. Even Ambedkar was silenced so many times and yielded. Patel and Savarkar and many others. So along these two themes, whatever he wanted to do, he did. And what he called that third segment was his experiments with truth. And that was another outrage going on. He was experiment on whom? And I'm going to discuss that. Because I'm trying to build what we are facing today, 100 years after 1915, 105 years. Why is it that we have not even risen from the ground level a few feet? Something has gone wrong, vicious with our leaders and their sycophants. So now let's go to the 20s, Jinnah and Gandhi. Right away, Jinnah was a Congress member. In the conference, he said that he did not address Mahatma Gandhi as Mahatma. He said, Mr. Gandhi. He was quickly shoved off the stage physically, and he had to leave. So this was the greatest policy decision that was so very wrong, alienating one of the greatest visionaries who was for unity in the country. And when Gandhi started Mopla, which was a watershed movement, that was opposed by Jinnah and many other people. And they said, what are you doing? You are giving alien roots to the Muslims who are born and brought up, who are descendants of Hindu people. And you are putting them under the Khalifa. So we are going to see a little bit of that. So I'm tracing, because I'm a historian, I go day by day, year by year, decade by decade, what exactly was going on in those 30 years. Gandhi said, now, Khilafat movement. Now, Khalifa was, Khilafat is related to Khalifa, who was Turkey. It was defeated. Many people have discussed this all through the morning. And many Muslim countries are very happy that now they can do the progress and get a little bit secular and become a little modern. But here in India, there were two brothers, Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali, and they asked Gandhi that, we want Khalifa. He was our religious head. And Gandhi said, okay, let's do that. Congress vehemently opposed it. Jinnah was absolutely livid with anger that we are born and brought us here, and you are giving us Arabian roots. And so he was pandering to the Muslim whims. Gandhi's reaction was, no, they are our brothers. we should respect their heads, and not realizing that international developments were the result of an international treaty. And asking the British government to violate that treaty of Versailles after the First World War is pointless. How can British do by themselves ask Turkey to bring back the Khalifa? The Ottoman Empire was gone. So non-violence dogma, we are going to do the test. It failed. In the Bopla case, he was justifying something. When it went out of hand, it became like not against the British, but against the Hindus. So he justified that, when the mighty tree falls, the earth shakes. And this was ridiculous because the mighty tree fell down in Turkey. Why the vibrations are in India? That also in Malabar. Because Malabar was affluent Hindu communities and Muslims were workers. So this gave them free lands, activities, movement to kill thousands of Hindus and rape women. And Mahatma Gandhi did not go there once, did not just rebuke them or stop it. No, for 3 days it continued. And he was on a, justifying that, it was a case of fight between the farmers and Hindu landlords, and all sorts of spins he created just to justify the Muslim violence. So that is where I'm saying that non-violence for him was something he can manipulate. Every time it happened to Hindus, well, it's okay. So Congress party, a flock of headless chickens under a confused leader. So if you see the history of the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the negotiations they were doing with the viceroy and among themselves, it was like going nowhere. Today, he is going to attend the roundtable conference. Tomorrow, he says, no, we should boycott it. And when the second roundtable conference came, he went inside, came back. We want Puran Swaraj. Again, he backed out. Then when the war started, he said we should resign from all the Congress provinces because we don't want war. We believe in non-violence, which was an opportunity to gain administrative experience, recruit and train our administrators, Hindus, and we lost an opportunity. So it was a series of, I'm covering this in my book in details, what was going on and how he was behaving. About his non-violence, why he was pleading and pandering to Muslim whims. I don't know if many people know about it. When he was in Africa, he made a very random, casual remark insulting the Muslims. At least this is what they thought. So one day at night, in that small little cottage where he was living, Kasturba was not there. So some 8 or 9 huge Pathans came and beat him to the pulp, literally. So he survived, but they beat him to the pulp. So that made his entire psyche different. After that, the Muslims became bullies. They vandalized Hindu space. They did everything irresponsible. And Gandhi continued, they are our brothers. And when one of them killed Swami Atmanand, and he said, our brother did it. Atmanand should not have started the Shuddhi movement. So you understand how he was going. And if today we are suffering from an identity crisis and we are acting like dhimmis, like, second-class people who cannot say anything about Mahatma Gandhi. We are not going to question Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. So this led to two things. He divided Hindus among the Harijans and the upper caste. And he continued chiding them for this or that or this or that. And at the same time, minorities galvanized. Muslim League was not in majority. There was Awami League who wanted integrated India. They were all like, small groups. But Gandhi gave so much importance to the Muslims, got communal representation in their favor. It is all part of history. And this led to minorities expand, becomes united, welded. And the third thing they did was they became bullies. If you never condemn them, well, they are bullies. They will, today they are holding your foot, tomorrow they will throw you from the waist down. So Hindus became separate and unequal. And that is the thing that continues today. Now, his experiments were truths. Everybody says he made sacrifices. Who were the guinea pigs? Who was he experimenting on? He was experimenting on Hindus. When it came to nonviolence, he was experimenting on Hindus. When it came to his own questionable austerity or celibacy, the guinea pigs were the minor girls with whom he used to sleep. I did not cover this aspect in the book. It was too gross, but it is in his own collected works where there are letters he wrote to different ladies and girls and how he responded to them. And many people believe that in the ashram, he was running his own harem, where there were always 4 or 5 girls. So his moral compass was, he only understood. What was the truth at some point, he understood, nobody else, because it was mercurial kind of thing. Today it is different, tomorrow truth has become different. So when in the 40s, when the everything was crystallized, that crystallizing actually, after the World War or during the World War, it was imminent that most likely they will get the independence. So now he was doing such a duplicacy, playing such games. In 1940, when Jinnah declared the two-nation theory, Gandhi endorsed it. You see, he endorsed it. And then he pretended that India will be partitioned on his dead body and stuff like that. That was the rules. So 1940. 1943, he even signed an agreement. In an agreement with Lord Wavell, agreeing to the partition. Now, if he knew in 1943 for sure, in 1940 he was sure, what prevented him from warning the Hindus that they should be prepared to leave? Or at some point, possibly they will leave. And why did he not make any preparations that if they move, where would they go? This is the tragedy for which Gandhi alone is responsible. That 7 years he knew about it and did nothing. So when the freedom comes, so people call it freedom, Actually, it was not freedom, it was transfer of power. It was mentioned before also. So I say that a stillborn child was born. Actually, that is the stillborn nation, because nation was bifurcated in turmoil. So now Gandhi disdained Hindus and Hindu traditions. My focus is what is the genesis of the problem that we have inherited, and we do have people to blame. Not the caste system and not the Hindus themselves, but Hindus as victims. So he misinterpreted Dharma. He coined the word Harijans as if some classes are very superior, really loved by God, and the others are, hateful people, something implied. His moral compass always pointed in the wrong direction. His celibacy was a sham, so was his austerity. He was fasting, he went into seclusion, where he would have orange juice, they say, and that is known to everybody. So silencing the Hindu-minded patriotic freedom fighters, that was his, motto, so that he could install Nehru and be the background figure to press on the same policy, failed policies that he followed as a dictator before partition. So I don't use the word before freedom, because freedom came only in 2014. So Hindu dawned with the mantle of oppressors. He always blamed them. They started it. Okay, so he created an inferiority complex. That is where the problem is. The Marxists did something, Nehru did a whole lot, and the rest is a chain reaction of power play, hanging on to the power. That came later. Initial inferiority complex was created by Mahatma himself, Gandhi. So now they're ashamed of their past because disassociated with that. He never talked about the past. He interpreted the segment like Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. But there is a next line also worse, which says that when is Hinsa required? So it is not half a verse in Bhagavad Gita, it is a full verse, which says when there is a Rajadharma, there is no such thing as non-violence. You don't play with words. Okay. So he was egotist. He was always afraid of losing his image. So he was double dealing. And I use the word Frankenstein let loose. I mean, not that he was Frankenstein, but he created monstrous forces of Hindu loss of self-esteem and Muslims as a bullying class and the privileged minority. So the next line, that is, many Englishmen use these words. One of them was Lithgow. He said that he has gone senile. Hitler used the word preposterous when he said that you stop the war. And Jinnah called him foolhardy. So these are the words used by them to describe. Unless we face these facts, that how did Hindu faith traditions got chipped? In spite of the fact there was Vivekananda before that, Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans, so many yogis and so many saints, Aurobindo Ghosh, the greatest of philosophers, then why the Hindu traditions were chipped down, chipped away, erosion of the cultural ethos? What is going on? Why? So when I looked at his background, history of 30 years while he was alive, and I came to the answer that he was the sole reason for that particular, reaching that point where it became very difficult to retrieve the Hindu self-esteem. And So was it satyagrah or was it a satyagrah? I would say it was a satyagrah because he was insisting, stubborn about something which is not true. And of course, my own feeling is he was a duratma. Now, a dead Gandhi versus Gandhi alive. So when Gandhi died, many people who came from Pakistan as a refugee, they said when he died, um, these women, I was in Delhi, they remarked that he was not our Bapu, he was Bapu of Muslims. And you know, we were, as children, we were surprised that people can be that unpatriotic. Gandhi was a great man, and they say he was Bapu of Muslims. But we understand that those people have better sense. So he adamantly suppressed the natural instincts of flight or fight. This is animals have the instinct. Either they run or they fight. But he said, no, you be, sacrifice yourself, be the victim, embrace it. If a woman is raped, she should be happy that she made someone happy. These are actual quotes. Now, how would you feel about being victim for 1 day, 3 days, decade, and 5 decades? So almost 5 decades have passed in the same kind of rut. So Hindus were unarmed, unprepared, defenseless, and rudderless. And he emboldened the Muslims. So what are the flock of people who are given false promises and who are not carrying weapons, and they have to suddenly leave with the help of military, or if they had good sense, they left a little earlier. I belong to Lahore. I was born there. And at the time of the partition, I have quite a vivid memory of atrocities done by Muslims in our town, the burning of the houses. We also saw the caravans passing by, Muslims leaving or Hindus leaving. Nehru got the legacy. He found out that if Godse can kill Mahatma Gandhi, maybe he will come after me next. So he had his own reason. Overnight, on the 30th of night in Bombay, there was a major riot, killing about, and it lasted 2.5 days. So about 3,000-4,000 Brahmins. And not a single Indian newspaper covered, not a single speech condemning them. And where I got the news, I read it in Washington Post, January 31st, 1948. So that is how much information is suppressed. So he blocked the welding. Nehru did the same thing, caste-based divisions and putting down Hindus. He himself says in many places, I am not, I am born Hindu, but I am culturally, I am a Muslim. So that is who he was. And most people say that Krishna Menon was communist and therefore Nehru became communist. It's the other way around. Nehru was a communist when he visited Russia in 1927 and came mesmerized. So these are facts. If we don't understand the facts, then we are on a very slippery ground. Anybody can put us on the defense, and we are we hang down our head because we don't have answers. So breaking the majority is breaking India. Hindus are broken in different classes, the Lingyats and the Jains and this and that. It is breaking India. And this needs the full book. that Rajiv wrote, and that needs to be read cover to cover. So now we are faced with a certain syndrome where we are running away from the facts and just indulge in casual talk. Hindu inertia is there, hesitant to actively participate in democracy. Many of them, when I go to India, many of them talk about, politics, Modi is going to, he should not, and this and that. Rahul Gandhi is very good. And when I ask them that, have you understood the realities, read the manifestos? They haven't. And when I asked that, who do you think you are going to vote? They said, we don't have voting card. And then I said, you don't have voting card. You are not going to vote. And you are talking nonsense over a cup of tea. And they say, हमें क्या लेना देना है? And I said, आपको क्या लेना देना है? मुझे क्या लेना देना है? I am not even now the citizen of this country, but I am very concerned. I am culturally and in a dharmic way rooted in India. So denial of opportunities. This reservation business, which kept expanding indefinitely, and somewhere along the line, communal, element came. Not disadvantage historically or socially, but they said that, minorities are minorities. So let it be Muslims and let the Christians, everybody is a minority. And among the Hindus also, the Dalits, of course, are minority. Patels are minority. Marathas. When were Marathas powerless in the history of the country? Lingians. So this minority appeasement at every level of government, naturally, those people who are coming to getting jobs or getting admissions, they have to resort to corruption. So you have to give some donation to the university to get admission. So groups with affiliations to communist parties and Naxalites, now they are also non-Hindus, even though in the demography, they are shown as Hindu. So these cleavages, they have torn the entire society. Now, India has now internal and domestic enemies, and we have to know them. So there are terrorist outfits, there are destabilizing forces who are getting their cue from...
Join the meeting.
They are getting cue from foreign powers, and they are doing surveillance on Indian society. And Pakistan is another threat, and a corridor for pilgrims they made for Sikhs. It turned out to be mafia and drug route. So might is right, gangsterism and mafia groups as youth wings of the Congress and other parties came up. So by the time 60 years are gone, now there is democracy subverted in every sense, constitutional sense, unconstitutional sense. Anybody can start a dharna on the street, get away with it, allowing continuous infiltration to change the demography, turning blind eye to NGOs, scams, and the whole bit. It is like many people, they say that all these people have been talking for 60 years, greeby hatao. But in the process, they have become very rich. How could that be? And one person remarked that how many 5-year plans will take to have complete unemployment. So these are the jokes going around. Now there is, after Modi came, it is a never, now or never moment, because nation that has been at risk, the heritage that has been destroyed or disconnected from the people, It is now our responsibility, your responsibility, collective responsibility. The older generation has nothing to lose. They have few years more. It's only the young generation who has to wear the thinking hat and thinking in the light of history. What went wrong? Always have a retrospect, one eye in the back. What went wrong? Thinking as responsible citizens in a democracy, analyzing the credibility of the speaker. Here, everybody, WhatsApp group starts some kind of jokingly, and people think this is a fact. So, because we are not thinking. Thinking as a researcher and evaluating the ground realities. These are the tasks. This requires hard work. Creating awareness about issues and dangers. And now, if the chores win, India loses its very existence, never to rise again. So do we take the advantage of this juncture? And today, the anniversary of one of the worst crimes perpetrated in America, when they realized there is something called terrorism. Previously, it was not. So now the problem is diagnosed. So now what? First of all, we change the name Bharat. Sri Lanka has
joined the meeting.
So why can't we? Finding solutions. Vision, socio-political assertion by the majority. Empowerment with knowledge to counter communism and secularism, which is antithesis of Bharatiya cultural ethos. Building identity as Hindus, transmission of knowledge and cultural values to the next generation. These are the tasks that if we today can take it to the next level and take up the responsibility, that who will bell the toll? So who will toll the bell? Sorry. So that is the task. And task is enormous. It is to change the name. It is to thwart the communism and secularism, expose them, assert Hindu identity, build it first, and have a knowledge base. You can only fight a battle when you have knowledge and a strategy. Now, these people who are in opposition and they are having Gathbandhans and joining together to defeat Modi, I call them Alibaba and Chalis Chor. They have been like that. Now, how to teach Hindu Dharma? That is now where the buck stops with us. That what are we going to do? If we are teaching Hindu Dharma, how do we teach it? What should be the content? Scientific method should be there. We should involve the students, not give them lectures. Hey, you are Hindus and let us have read Hanuman Chalisa. That is not the approach. This is a digital age. Weaving all this into modern condition, make it relevant to this. And building blocks, knowledge of the self, knowledge of the Prakriti, and knowledge of the cosmic reality. Hindu Dharma revolves around these things. Know yourself, know your Prakriti, environment, and connect with the divine. Because these are the connections when you harmonize with Prakriti and make it relevant to the modern times. How? When you say karma and transmigration, everybody who is born dies, born again, and Atma does not die, it is a very fundamental scientific thing that the matter is indestructible, it only changes forms. And so is collective consciousness. It is indestructible. It goes from one place to another. So it is metamorphosis. Now this, once you recognize this, you believe in environment, you believe nothing to be destroyed, you believe preservation and conservation of the beauty of nature, you also believe in not disturbing the ecosystem, making some species totally So Hindu Dharma provides the building blocks of modern day slogans. This whole green peace movement and environmental things, these are all offshoots of Hindu Dharma because we are basically nature worshippers. We worship the sun, we worship the uh, air, uh, water, all of these in a symbolic way or otherwise. So we expand the knowledge base of our own tradition by checking the original sources, by going through some of the oral traditions and meaning of the chants. You see, people boast that my son has learned, at the age of 3, how to sing Gayatri Mantra 108 times. First of all, 3-year-old child doesn't know 108 number. So these are all, wrong starts, wrong jump starts giving to your children. Think of it after 25, at the age of 25, how many of them will be boasting about knowing Hanuman Chalisa? So we have to know the role of festivals, what they are, fasting, why we do it, why is it necessary, what are the holy days, what is Yajna, what do we sacrifice, and what is the importance of that. So there are two aspects of knowing Hindus. One is knowing their basics and fundamentals, who they are, that is knowing about them, Hindus being convinced Hindus by convictions. And the second is practicing Hindus, where you are actually practicing yourself all the principles and that. So we correcting the historical perspective, I'm just coming to an end, retrieving history, find out who are the villains, who are the heroes, erasing hypotheses and assumptions like the Marxists have created, throwing the baggage of caste system, it is irrelevant. First of all, caste system was not started by India, by Hindus. It was done by the Britishers. And in 1920, there is one statement by one of the Census Bureau superintendent, who happened to be the Englishman. I should have brought the quote, but I will send it to Anjali, that quote, because everybody should keep it in the pocket who started caste system. And don't go into Muharram mode and stop beating your breast that you are accused of caste system. You are the casteist people. We are not. When Gautam Buddha was asked, who are you? He was asking the identity. He did not say my caste is what. He said, my given name is Siddhartha. I am from Shakya clan. My Gotra is Gautam. And at this time, my Varan is nothing. I belong to nobody and nobody belongs to me. So he did not say the word caste. So it should not be used at all. It should be removed from the dictionary. So we should have to take individual initiative and the role of temples and ashram. By the way, the temples here I have visited, I tried that there should be educational thrust on the basis of scientific aspects of Hindu Dharma, and that will become more like logical to them. They thought I was labeled fanatic and I was shunned. Our own temple. So organizational thrust should be there. We should work as community together, not at cross purpose. Here, the communities are trying to vie with each other among themselves. Whereas as a community, the Muslims are penetrating everywhere in the political echelons, in the government of the United States, in the government of England, and of course, in India. We are not even able to make a community work together. Okay. So retrieving identity and dignity, you have to know the other people. If they know our faults and exploit us, then we have to know theirs. So it is absolutely essential to read some of the chapters of the Bible, some of the chapters of Quran, I have read, and not the sanitized versions, the original ones, so that you can put them on the spot. So be aggressive. One has to be aggressive. It's a war. It's a war for survival of Hindu Dharma. So know your fault lines, which they are exploiting. Then be on the, instead of being on the defensive, build a strategy, good answer. Hey, what caste? This is what caste is. Know the strength and weakness of the opponent by reading their books. So war or a conflict, the chance of winning is to fight on the offensive. I have never seen a war where you win it by being on the defensive, because you are unprepared. So always be on the offensive. If they are blaming us for Saffron Brigade, then why not be a brigade? Fight. It's like a game of chess. Be 5 moves ahead of them. So read the frequently asked questions, which are prepared for the master's level course in Hinduism by the universities here. And I have given it in my book, Hindu Dharma, a teaching guide, because that will tell you where they are going and where they are misrepresenting. Now brainstorming. What are the doables? Out of this, what have we learned, and what is the audience, whoever is listening today, is going to do? What are the doable? Distinguish between what the government is doing and what we are going to do. When there is a smallpox, you don't treat one pock mark. You find a vaccine. So you are not fighting one person, one bully. You are treating the malaise, the whole malignant tumor. It is government responsibility, yes, to provide the courses and educational environment. It is also the parents and the teachers' role. It is the media's influence, which is national media is highly diabolic in treating Hindu Dharma. Community is responsibility to counter misleading propaganda. Now, out of all these things, what exactly an individual is going to do? So if nothing else out of this conference, let us come out with, I as an individual, what am I going to do? Which is my doable? So I think that's it. So brainstorming means that in a way, I am giving everybody homework. That think about these things, pick up one area where you are going to be responsible, whether you are going to a school and some way or other you are reaching other people and telling about India's contribution to the world, or you build relevant building blocks, scientific aspects of Hindu Dharma, just focus on that, or pick up some kind of responsibility, or do the welding of the community. That is very important. Or build the identity, positive identity. How many Hindus are going to go on in the public square where there are Americans and say, if questioned, who are you? Are they going to say, I'm Hindu? No, they will go like this. And the other people say, you are others. They will label us because we failed to label us. So, and that reminds me of an incident which was eye-opener. It will take a minute. Some 7 years old, 8 years old kids were crossing a street after the school was over. It was New York. And I was also standing there at the corner. So these, some Christian groups came, and 4 or 5 people, and they asked those bunch of small children, who are you? What is the name of your God? And they were so, nonplussed. Should I say Krishna, Ram, who? While they are still thinking in their little heads, they said, God is, Jesus is your God. 30 seconds. They don't give more than that. Then they said, what is your holy book? And then you're thinking, Ramayana, what did my mother say? Mahabharata, Gita. And they said, here, Bible is the holy book. And then they say, what is your belief? And they again are, should I say truth? Should I say non-violence? What should I? And they say, Jesus gives salvation. This is your basic belief. Now you tell me, as an audience, what are you going to do about it? Are we going to make our children defenseless, or are we going to arm them with basic principles, philosophy, psychology contained in Hindu Dharma? Thank you very much. I hope I didn't put people to sleep. And
that was Kamlesh ji. You're talking about sleep. This was a call to awake people. So this was a call. This was a wake-up call. So that's why I'm saying that sleep. I think people should lose their sleep after this. But wonderfully delivered. And I have a few questions, Kamlesh ji. I don't want to summarize whatever you have said because people have been asking some very pointed questions. So let me just...
ask the questions.
You're able to see me. Can you stop sharing the screen? It's possible for you, Kamlesh ji?
These slides?
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
I have put a lot of material in the public domain. If you go to YouTube and find under my name, I prepared a 16 lesson course for beginners in how to teaching Hindu Dharma. So those sessions are 16, and you can access it. And then there is 9 sessions, workshops, where I'm telling how to create the teachers who can teach the subject, Hindu Dharma. So there are workshops, and if this can be on the public, in the public domain, then let it be. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh ji. So this was one of the questions from some people, whether they can have access to your presentation. And there are a couple of questions one is on caste. How can Hindus rise above caste? That is one. And the other very important question is, just like the Jewish, they played their strong financial card to, and they created Israel. What card do we have to influence our foreign power in our favor? And this question has been posed by the Michigan Indian Community Service.
Say it again, the last question. Let me answer the first one. Okay. The caste, right? The caste, I have made a flyer, 1 page. That says it all. Put it in your pocket. Every time anybody talks about caste, Hindu or non-Hindu, shove it to them in their face. That is what I'm doing. So the second thing you do is, if you are hesitant to take the paper out or keep the paper in your pocket, then I say have it tattooed. You see, I am that fed up with the caste, which doesn't belong to us. We did not create it, and we are being blamed and every day flagellized. And one of our organization apologized to the American government, one of the agencies, that Hindus should be ashamed of it. We apologize for it. Are pagal, what went wrong with your brain? First of all, you have no business to speak on behalf of all the Hindus. And secondly, you have the audacity to apologize for something you did not even create. Where are the brains?
Kamlesh ji, that really points out to lack of knowledge, as you mentioned, that there are so many WhatsApp messages floating around, which people just create ad hoc WhatsApp messages without having any knowledge. And I have been forwarded messages like Modi is destroying the country. India has become the poorest country in the world. So I had to ask them that, can you please Google and see which is the poorest country in Asia and which is the poorest country in the world? It just takes a Google search. People don't even want to do that, but it's because it's easier to blame somebody who is who's in power, somebody like Modi who's questioning authority. So
I will circulate that paper. I will send it today,
sure.
And tomorrow you flash it and give it to everybody. Everybody can copy it down.
Absolutely. And a very important point.
One page.
Sure. Kamlesh, a very important point that you raised, that we take a lot of pride in telling our children, oh, my kid can recite Gayatri Mantra, my kid knows Hanuman Chalisa. A 3-year-old kid or a 4-year-old kid can only recite it, just like a parrot, right? Because they don't know what the real essence of it. So the more important thing to do is to make it more relevant to their day-to-day life. When they know that they can use it in their day-to-day life. For example, if it is passing an exam, if it is understanding mathematics well, if it is working out your relationship with your parents and your teachers, if the Dharma can help them in that, then they know the value rather than just reciting something just for the sake of it. Right?
This question is extremely relevant, and I personally found answers while raising my grandchildren. So every day on the way to school, I made it my duty that the school, I have to drop them. Those 7 minutes, they are buckled up and I'm teaching them, just conversationally. We are praying to sun. How do we pray? Why do we pray to sun? Sun gives this, sun gives that. Who is Deva? And never use the word God, because God is a word, an entity created by human beings in their own image. We don't have a word. We have Brahma and divine spark, which is in me, expands to infinity. That is Brahman, Brahma. So we have the word Deva. And why are we pleasing others by translating it as gods? And then they're fighting with the curriculum people that it should be with bigger G or smaller G, This is a grand total of nonsense. So let us not use those categories which do not exist in Sanskrit. A ritual does not exist in Sanskrit because it has a Latin root. Mithya, when they say mythology and we say mythology, that means we believe in falsehood. Think of it. Brain bhi hota hai na, common sense. Achha. So don't use mythology. Don't use soul. Soul is no word, has nothing to do. Look at the dictionary. Use the Atma. And use the word sanskar. Use the word the worship of Prakriti. When we are doing yajna or any puja, what do? We offer reverence, Varun Devai. Om Varun Devai Namaha, Om Vayu Deva Namaha. We are offering to the natural forces. So nobody is talking about God in Sanskrit. And here we are fighting about gods and God. So the other day, the doctor in my presence was explaining to his son in a puja. He means gods. He means gods. And after that, I said, Doctor, you failed my reading of my book. If you did read one word, you failed. Wrong. So you see, these are the first lessons in the book. They are for 4 to 7 years old. It is at that level. Who are you? My name is this. I live in Chesapeake. I go there. My parents are this. This is identity. Who I believe in? I believe in nature. I believe in beautiful flowers. I love this. I love that. You are building connection. You see, you're not talking about God, infinity, and salvation. It is not in their experience, emotional experience. So similarly, you go building blocks. Look at this flower. What happened? It died. Died means what? That means it's going to be churned into something else. It really didn't vanish. Metamorphosis. How many concepts are hidden in this? Recycling, metamorphosis, transformation, and you see, rebirth, swastika with the gaps, infinite journey of Atma with gaps. So in each concept, there is a whole lot of building blocks which are so relevant today. So you really have to look at those for the munchkins, the lessons, and for the book is $9 on the e-version. Just buy them. And or go to YouTube, they are free lessons. I'm a book person. Everything that I write, I have to have 10 books for reference. So thank you very much. I think I am taking the other person's time. And if any questions you have, Anjali can give my email address, and I can tell you about the caste system. I have 5 lessons on YouTube under the heading Freedom from Bias, the Last Frontier to Cross.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh ji. Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Absolutely wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Prabhu ji, over to you.
मैंने तो खत्म कर दिया. आप किसको बुला रहे हैं? हेलो.